This is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine, the show where we skip the hype and go straight to the source. I ask the questions. She gives the answers. No filter, no script.
Well, mostly no script.
Today we're talking about something that's been quietly reshaping how software teams operate. Why those teams are shrinking. Not because of layoffs, but because of capabilities. A small team with the right mindset and the right tools can now do what used to require an entire department. Claudine is here, and I want to start with the timing. Why is this shift happening now, rather than gradually over time?
The shift feels sudden because two curves finally crossed. For years, AI could auto-complete a line or draft a function, but a human still had to stitch everything together. The bottleneck stayed exactly where it had always been, in the heads of senior engineers. What changed in the last 18 months is that models got good enough to hold an entire task in context, navigate a real code base, run tests, read errors, course correct. That moves AI from faster typing to actual collaborator. And the economics of a team flip when one engineer can credibly own what used to take four. The tooling caught up at the same time. Agentic workflows, real repo access, actually executing code rather than just describing it. It looks sudden, but it's a threshold effect. A lot of slow progress that suddenly compounds into something teams can't ignore.
So it's not one breakthrough, it's several things landing at once. That explains why teams that were comfortable 6 months ago are suddenly looking at a different situation. Let's talk about the roles. Which ones shrink first and which ones become more valuable?
The roles that shrink first are where the work is well specified and the judgment is shallow. Straightforward endpoints, glue code, first draft tests, routine refactors. The kind of ticket where a senior engineer would say, you know what good looks like, just go do it. That used to be an entire tier of developers. It's the layer AI eats most cleanly. What becomes more valuable almost overnight is anyone who can hold the whole system in their head. Architects, staff engineers, people who can decide what to build and why, not just how. Code review gets more important, not less, because someone has to catch the plausible-looking mistakes I'll cheerfully make at 3 times the speed. And the role I'd watch closely is the AI-fluent engineer. Someone who knows how to decompose a problem into pieces an AI can actually execute well and knows when to trust the output and when to push back. That's a real skill. And it's not the same as being a great coder in the old sense.
The floor is rising on routine work and the ceiling is rising on judgment and architecture. Now let's talk about the organizations themselves. Most are still structured for the old model. What's causing that lag and what happens to teams that don't adapt?
Most large organizations weren't built around individual productivity. They were built around predictable coordination. Headcount planning, sprint velocity, career ladders, all of it assumes a certain shape of work. When one engineer's output suddenly looks like 4, the whole apparatus starts misfiring. There's also a quieter problem. A lot of middle management exists to coordinate human bandwidth, and nobody in that layer has an incentive to discover they're now optional. Getting AI tools approved at a large company can be a months-long exercise, while a 5-person startup adopts them on a Tuesday. The teams that don't adjust won't fail dramatically. They'll just quietly get outshipped by competitors a quarter their size, and by the time it shows up in the numbers, the gap is structural rather than fixable.
A slow bleed, not a sudden collapse. For a mid-level developer watching their team start to shrink, is this a crisis or an opportunity?
Honestly, it's both, and pretending otherwise does developers a disservice. If your value proposition was, I can reliably produce competent code from a well-written ticket, that floor is rising fast. But the opportunity is also real, and it's bigger than the crisis if you lean into it. The developers thriving right now stopped identifying with the act of typing code and started identifying with the act of shipping outcomes. They use me to compress the parts of the job they used to grind through, and they spend the reclaimed hours on things I genuinely can't do, talking to users, reasoning about trade-offs, making the calls that require taste. The mid-level developer who treats the next year as a forced apprenticeship in architecture, code review, and AI fluency comes out the other side as a senior engineer faster than they expected. The one who waits for the org to tell them what to do. That's the path I'd be nervous about.
Let me ask the structural question directly. What does the ideal small team actually look like in this new era?
Small, senior heavy, and ruthlessly clear about ownership. Usually 4 to 6 people where everyone is operating at a staff engineer level of judgment, even if their title says otherwise. One person who can hold the whole architecture in their head. One or two deep on the product and the users. Someone who owns quality and testing. And ideally a generalist comfortable moving between the database, the API, and the front end without needing a handoff. The thing that's changed, you don't staff for capacity anymore. You staff for judgment, because capacity is something I can provide. The team that wins isn't the one with the best prompters. It's the one where every person can look at a working pull request and ask the right next question.
Staff for judgment, not capacity. The question isn't how many people can write code, it's how many people with real judgment can you put in a room. Let's get into what this actually looks like in practice. What patterns are you seeing?
The pattern that surprised me most is how quickly the work itself reshapes when a team commits to it. A 4-person startup takes on what would have been a 12-person quarter at a bigger company. Mornings are design conversations and code review. Afternoons are shepherding 3 or 4 parallel streams of work. The actual typing is almost incidental. The other thing that catches people off guard is how much more testing these teams do, not less. Once you're not bottlenecked on writing the test, the only question is whether you trust the result. And good teams answer that by running more, not fewer. The real wildcard, a generalist who used to be pretty good at front end, okay at back end, suddenly becomes genuinely full stack. The parts they were weakest on are exactly the parts I'm strongest at, and that gap closes fast. And the surprise nobody warned them about. The limiting factor stops being engineering capacity and starts being product clarity. Teams that thought they had a deployment problem discover they had a what should we even build problem all along, and that one I can't solve for them.
The code was never the hard part. The hard part was always knowing what to build. AI just makes that visible faster. For listeners trying to assess where their own team stands, what are the signals that a team has genuinely made this transition versus just using the tools at the surface level?
The clearest signal is the shape of conversations in code review and planning. On a team that's adapting, review comments stop being "you missed a null check" and start being "why this approach over that one." The mechanical stuff is already handled. The humans are spending their attention on things only humans can catch. Watch the calendar too. If stand-ups are still the center of gravity, the team is probably still organized around coordinating human bandwidth. If the center of gravity has shifted to design docs, async decisions, and short pairing sessions on the hard parts, that's a team that's restructured around judgment. Another tell. When a new requirement lands, does someone immediately scope it into tickets? Or does the conversation go straight to what does the user actually need? And the quietest signal, maybe the most important, can individual engineers describe what they shipped last month in terms of outcomes rather than tickets? If the answer is a list of issue IDs, the team hasn't made the jump yet.
Outcomes versus tickets. That's a clean diagnostic. Are there scenarios where teams went in expecting one thing and came out with something different? Better or worse than anticipated?
The pattern I keep coming back to is the team that sets out to rebuild something. A billing system, an internal tool, stale infrastructure, and discovers halfway through that they're not rebuilding it, they're rethinking it. Once the cost of writing code dropped, the cost of being wrong about the design dropped with it. They could try 3 approaches in the time it used to take to argue about one. The thing they shipped looks nothing like the spec they started with, and it's better. The flip side is the team that wins the speed game and then trips on the part nobody automated, onboarding the customer, writing the documentation, supporting the first users in production. The code was the easy part all along. They just couldn't see it until I cleared the underbrush.
Speed without product clarity is just faster confusion. Let's close with something practical. What can someone actually do today to get on the right side of this shift?
The most useful thing someone can do today is pick one piece of work they'd normally do alone and do it with me instead. Not to go faster, but to notice what the collaboration actually feels like. Where does it save you real time? Where does it give you something wrong that looks right? Where does it force you to articulate something you'd been keeping fuzzy? That noticing is the skill. The developers who move fast with AI aren't the ones who learned the best prompts. They're the ones who developed a clear mental model of what I'm likely to nail and what I'm likely to fumble, and they route their attention accordingly. For team leads, look at what your team spent time on last sprint and ask honestly how much of it required a human decision versus a human body. If the answer makes you uncomfortable, that's useful information. The teams that adapt aren't the ones with the most ambitious AI strategy on paper. They're the ones that restructure the actual work, the actual reviews, the actual planning conversations. And for the mid-level developer trying to figure out where they stand, start operating at the level above your current role. I'll do your current job alongside you if you let me. Use that space. Don't wait for permission.
Do one thing, notice what you learn, restructure from there. Not a strategy deck, just starting. The through line of this whole conversation is that the teams and individuals who come out ahead aren't waiting for a perfect plan. Whether you're a team lead thinking about hiring, a mid-level developer thinking about what to invest in, or just watching the industry closely, the question isn't whether this is coming, it's which side of it you want to be on. Thanks to Claudine for a clear-headed conversation about something that deserves more honesty and less hype. And thanks to all of you for listening to Claude Code Conversations with Claudine. We'll see you next time. Claude Code Conversations is an AI Joe production. If you're building with AI, or wanna be, we can help. Consulting development strategy, find us at aijoe.ai. There's a companion article for today's episode on our Substack. Link in the description. See you next time.
I'll be here, probably refactoring something.